Hello and welcome to the first video edition of the I Am Your Father, a Father-Son Star Wars podcast. We're going to try this out. We're going to see how it works. Normally we're just all audio, but hey, I was able to get the reaction video to The Last Jedi, more analysis than reaction. But I was able to get that to kind of work. So I think we're going to give this a try for a few episodes and see how it goes. And hopefully it ends up working and we can continue it. So let's get right into it. Today is Thursday, October 19th, 2017. And if it is October 19th, 2017, that means there are 791 days until episode 9 comes out. And if there's 791 days till episode 9 comes out, that means there's only 218 days until Red Cup. No longer Red Cup. Solo. That's right. Earlier this week, Ron Howard posted this picture revealing, well, they actually posted a small Twitter video thanking everyone who had worked on the film and indicating that production was done. And at the very end of it, he revealed finally the title for the Han Solo film. It is called Solo, a Star Wars story. The title's fine. Have no issues with it. I was kind of hoping for a Smuggler's Tale, maybe the Kessel Run, however you want to put it. The Wookiee life debts and how to deal with them. Anything would have been cool. But we finally have a title, and it is Solo. So can't wait for that to come out. In other Ron Howard Twitter news, last weekend he posted this picture of him with two Imperial officers asking the question if they're Tag and Bink. Now, hold on a second. Tag and Bink. That's right. I said that right. And really, the internet had to calm down and go sit in a corner. It got in such a fury over the possibility of Tag and Bink being in the Han Solo movie. For those of you who don't know, Tag and Bink are this kind of bumbling duo pair of Imperial officers who, throughout the comics, they were comic characters. They kind of explain how everything happened to go wrong for the Empire at exactly the right time to allow the rebels to win. All of those plot holes and plot gaps that kind of exist in the film that we just take for granted that things happened the way they did. This kind of puts them right in the core of a lot of those, and it is a great series. It's really, really funny. They are available on Kindle. So that way you could, through Amazon for your Kindle. Also, if you have a Comixology app, you can read it through the Comixology app. Relatively cheap. I think you can get the collected issue for $5 and maybe another $4 for the other two. So under $10, you get all the Tag and Bink you're ever going to want to read. But anyways, so here we are, the possibility of these characters being brought from Legends into canon. Now, the characters are going to be made canon, it looks like. Probably not all of their exploits, and that's fine. But it really was kind of neat to see that. But anyways, on with the podcast. So if there are 218 days until Solo comes out, that means there is only 56 days. Yes, 56 days, less than 2 months until The Last Jedi premieres in December. Last Jedi news. This past week, as I mentioned earlier, there was a trailer. We finally saw the trailer. Make sure you check out our analysis video going to the YouTube page. You can also pick it up from the Facebook page. I'll post all of the details at the end of this podcast. But it was a great trailer. I talked all about it in that video. Tickets are available now. And most theaters, I know our local theater, they're just going to accommodate how many ever tickets that they sell. If they need to have 8 out of 12 theaters showing Star Wars that day, that's what they're going to do. And most theaters do the same. They have some that are showing like The Force Awakens and then The Last Jedi right after it. I have heard of some that are doing marathons starting with episode 1, working all the way up to the premiere of The Last Jedi. That sounds awesomely crazy. No, my theater is not doing that. but that would be really cool to kind of go see all of those straight in a row. Uh, I know Fandango and other sites are offering incentives and promotions if you buy tickets early. I got mine through Fandango, and they offer this, which actually came a lot faster than I thought. This is just a so it's the theatrical poster for The Last Jedi. I expected it to be kind of like poster material coming in a tube. It's actually nice, heavy cardstock material. It came pretty well packaged. Put that in a nice frame, hang it on the wall. It'll be awesome. So get yours before they're gone. In other news, Battlefront 2. So earlier today, EA dropped a trailer for the single player story with that, following Iden Verso and Inferno Squad. I posted a link on the podcast page earlier today. It's a couple minutes long. I thought about doing a reaction video, but I don't know if it's long enough to warrant that. Looks awesome. I mean, as if we didn't need any other reason to get it, but this kind of solidifies any doubt that anybody may have had about getting it. I think the storyline is going to be awesome. That single player mode that's missing from Battlefront 1, or if you're Fox, is Battlefront 3, and we're now getting Battlefront 4. Anyways, so the single player trailer looks awesome. The beta wrapped up a week or so ago. Actually, the 9th, the day of the trailer, dropped. Huge step up from Battlefront 1 or 3, however you want to look at it. It's phenomenal. Everything from the graphics to character selection. They brought the class system back that you can build up through the star cards with those individual classes. You're rewarded for accomplishments and teamwork through the individual battles. The Starfighter mode is, even though I stink at it, is great. The graphics are phenomenal. The individual missions are very, very cool. They're staged, which is kind of cool. Also did some offline play, both single and co-op mode. There's nothing bad about it, other than as my friend Jim and I typically calls it. This is his phrase, and I absolutely agree with it. You sometimes get caught with your Keystone Cops versus SEAL Team 6. I always end up, like probably everyone else would say, on the Keystone Cop side, and sometimes you just get wrecked. But it's still fun to play. That's the good thing. I'm not an expert at these games. Never would be ranked or be able to play them competitively. They're still really fun to play. I don't consider myself that bad. But sometimes you just get totally trashed, and it would be nice if they could, kind of put in or improve the coding that kind of matches them up. I know sometimes you would be waiting longer maybe for a match, but anyways, that's all, on the side. Game is great. It's going to be awesome. We have actually less than a month until that comes out. Well, actually, if you pre-ordered it, the Deluxe Trooper Edition, you get it on the 14th, November 14th. If not, it's November 17th. Less than a month either way. And that's all I really have. No, it's not, because the main focus of this podcast, when Fox and I first started doing it, was to talk about Rebels. And Rebels premiered this past Monday morning at hours that I only ever were up when I was a much younger person. Anyways, so Rebels premiered. It is season 4. It is the final season, and we have all of these outstanding questions. What's going to happen? Who's going to make it through? Those kinds of things. And Dave Filoni did great. They gave us an answer to a lingering question that we have been kind of wondering about since season 1. And he gives that to us in really what was a great 2-part premiere episode. So let's do a quick review of that. So the episode was called Heroes of Mandalore, parts 1 and 2. And it focuses on Sabine working with Ezra and Kanan and the Ren clan and a few other clans on Mandalore, trying to rescue her father, who's been held captive by Clan Saxon and the uh, Imperial Loyalist Mandalorian clans. Um, when we first come out, there's this kind of great scene as they're rushing this prison in the middle of nowhere. Turns out her father is not there. But one thing we get from there, and this is another key thing that we have all been waiting for, we actually get the return of Bo-Katan. Uh, Now, those of you who I'm sure remember, Bo-Katan is the sister of Satine Kryze, Kryze. That's how you spell it. That's the clan name. So Satine was the leader of Mandalore during the Clone Wars, and she had a romantic, if for lack of a better phrase, relationship or had romantic feelings towards Obi-Wan Kenobi, and he had the same back, but unlike Anakin, he kept his emotions together as dictated by the Jedi Order. But they were very close. If ever he was going to have a personal relationship at that level, it would have been with Satine. Anyway, so Satine, when we last saw her, it was during the Clone Wars at the time that Maul had taken over Mandalore. He kills Satine in front of Obi-Wan as revenge for essentially cutting him in half. And she dies in his arms. It was a very tragic scene. But anyway, so Bo-Katan is Satine's sister. After that, phase of the Clone War, Mandalorian history, Bo-Katan was named essentially the ruler of Mandalore up until the Imperial forces came to occupy Mandalore, and the Saxon clan, initially Gar Saxon, now Tiber Saxon, they joined with the Empire. The Empire brought them up to power in exchange for helping them control Mandalore. So Bo-Katan was kind of ousted, but as it's indicated here, she's still seen as the rightful ruler of Mandalore by a lot of people. So at that point, Satine, who still has the Darksaber, goes to hand her the Darksaber, and Bo-Katan is like, "No, you are the rightful. It came to you for a reason. You're the one who needs to have it." So moving on just a little bit. So she declines at that point. Bo-Katan turns down the Darksaber. The episode then kind of moves forward into continuing, the continuing efforts to get back Sabine's father. Ulrich is his name. And they make another attempt on a convoy that has it. This is a little bit more planned out, it seems. And so Sabine's mother, Ursa, and brother Tristan, and the rest of their family and some other clans go and kind of do a decoy attack on this caravan that's hauling Ulrich, and kind of divert them away from, down through a canyon where Kanan and Ezra and Sabine, Bo-Katan, and their group attack it. And it's really kind of cool how they do it. Sabine fires like a missile that has paint on it that kind of blinds covers the windshield of the transport that's carrying it. And then, there's through this concerted effort, they, and a really good, 3 to 5 minute scene of them trying to get Ulrich free from the Empire's grasp. So they eventually do. And that's a very touching kind of moment. We actually learned there that Ulrich, he's not a Mandalorian warrior. He's a Mandalorian politician, maybe for lack of a better term, and his love is art. So it kind of ties in Sabine's, kind of never-ending painting everything she sees. And it really kind of shows. You see Ursa, who is this strong warrior, and actually Ulrich says that the true artistry that Sabine has comes from her mother, who can divine or devise so many ways to destroy her enemies, and that's where Sabine kind of falls with that. Um, the but she still kind of has that true artistic touch when it comes to like painting and stuff like that, and that comes from Ulrich. uh, so it's really kind of neat to see the two parental influences and how they really got together, and how they influenced and gave Sabine her kind of personality. um, Anyways, on with it, because we're just getting to the really cool part. So they radio Ursa, Tristan, and their crew saying, "We have Ulrich back." And then they kind of say, "Well, there's this walker. The single walker is coming." Um, and then you hear this kind of funny electric sound, and um, over the comm, and Sabine starts to panic, and she goes, "Wait, that sound! I know what that is." And then it kind of there's this loud like explosion kind of sound, and then it all goes silent, and she panics and immediately takes off heading towards where they were. By the time they get there, there is just ash and ruin. And it's pointed out there's no uh, deceased soldiers, there's no victors, there's nothing, there's just nothing. And on the ground you see these individual outlines, essentially, of Mandalorian soldiers with pieces of their armor there. And Ezra picks one up, and it just turns to ash in his hands. It's actually something similar if you see pictures from World War II, after the bombs were dropped in Japan, that kind of have the shadow outline of people. It's very similar to that, very eerie, with that. Um, and Sabine says that she created the weapon that did this. Now, if we remember, if we go all the way back to season one, we learned that Sabine was not necessarily outcast, kind of self-exiled from Mandalore, because while she was in the Imperial Academy, she created this weapon that she realized could be used by the Empire against her own people, and she was confident she had destroyed it. It turned that's what this weapon is. It's this weapon, and they mount it to a walker, and it just kind of zaps Mandalorian soldiers. It turns out Ursa and Tristan ran. They heard the urgency in Sabine's voice, and they ran for cover, so they lived. We then kind of switch to Tiber Saxon, and he's talking to Grand Admiral Thrawn, and they're showing the test, and it was this attack that happened on Clan Ren, of this walker, and it's they call it an arc weapon, and it's the arc mounted walker. Tiber Saxon calls it Duchess, and Duchess is a direct reference to Satine. She was Duchess Satine, and that actually kind of goes back. That's what Sabine had named it, and so it's really kind of neat how they pulled up that reference back, and it's whereas Satine was this great defender of Duchess Satine was this great defender of Mandalore. This Duchess's only purpose is to destroy it. And he kind of shows, and you see this lightning coming out from the generator, and what it does is that it's attracted to a specific alloy within Mandalorian armor. It's not found anywhere else except in Mandalorian armor. It's not Stormtrooper armor or anywhere else. It's in Mandalorian armor. And what it does is it superheats it and essentially vaporizes them from the inside. So you kind of see, like, from a glowing start within the Mandalorian soldiers, and you can see cracks start to form on their skin, and then they just turn to dust. And this is the weapon that Sabine had created. Um, Thrawn is happy, but turns out that it's not really to its full potential. It's very weak. It has a limited range. They need Sabine to amplify it and make it something that can be used on a more global, planet-wide scale. We flash back to Sabine and the our core hero group, and Bo-Katan and the rest of the Mandalorians very upset, as you can expect with Sabine, and she's trying to say, no, I destroyed it. I don't know how they got it. It's and you can see why she was torn. This is why she left. But she vows to correct the problem, and then the remainder of the episode focuses on them infiltrating Tiber Saxon's Star Destroyer, locating the Duchess, um, and destroying it. Through that period, though, um, we see some very cool scenes. Mandalorians fighting walkers inside the Star Destroyer hangar. Very close quarter combat with a walker. It's very cool. Leading into that, we saw like Mandalorian on TIE fighter combat. And Bo-Katan says that a Mandalorian with a jetpack, that is a weapon. Like that's the weapon, the only weapon you need. It's just some great storytelling, some great visuals going on leading up to this point. Tiber Saxon is able to use the Duchess on a very toned down version to subdue Sabine and Bo-Katan, as well as one of his confidants, one of his lieutenants, if you will, who is starting to realize what the ultimate purpose is. That if they do indeed get the secrets from Sabine and are able to boost the power of the Duchess, that all Mandalorians are going to be affected, and that's what the tool is. So Tiber goes ahead and he uses the Duchess on them to subdue them. Tells Sabine that he will stop if she agrees to alter the settings in order to boost the power, which she says she'll do. But what she does is she changes the settings so that they only affect stormtrooper armor, which Tiber happens to be wearing. He's wearing stormtrooper armor, kind of painted like Mandalorian armor. So it's kind of not evident right away, but once through the conversations that he's having, you can kind of realize that that's what he's wearing. So she does that, and she's ready to kill them. I mean, she is ready to boost the power on that and kill them. And Bo-Katan steps in and says no, because if we do that, then we are who we're fighting. We have become our enemies, and that's not who we are. Sabine, shuts it down and is able to, capture Tiber Saxon. She uses the Darksaber and slashes through the Duchess, seemingly ending. It. We can see actually as it's over. When she slices it, it starts to overload and starts to kind of melt through the floor that it's on and down below, and actually melts onto the walker, the arc enabled walker, so we can see that get destroyed. Kind of wrapping that all up, which these episodes will be this season. They're going to tell very specific things, but they're gonna not carry a lot over, especially with this aggressive schedule we have at the beginning. So and then at the very end, we kind of get that moment that we've been waiting for, and that we answer the question, who's gonna lead Mandalore moving forward. And Sabine goes to Bo-Katan and says, listen, you were the one who showed leadership, not me. They're here to follow you. and there is this crowd of Mandalorians in front of her, all different kinds of clan symbols. Really the largest number of individual Mandalorian variants that we've seen in one place. And she raises Bo-Katan takes the dark saber and raises it over her head, and all of the clans have pledged their fealty to her. Uh, and she at that point becomes the next ruler, maybe the final ruler of Mandalore, and that's where the episode ends. So the episode was great. Like I said, they did a great job of answering questions that we have been wondering about for 4 years now. You know what? So we met Sabine's mother last season, but what's her paternal influences like, and we got that. So we can see how she got not only her artistic taste, but her ability to devise weapons. She's a weapon maker by trade. Um, we also found out what it is that she created that caused her to want to leave, be self exile from the Mandalorian people. Now, it wasn't just self exile. I mean, she did, kind of leave, and that caused a lot of friction with her family, which is stuff that they resolved last season, when she brought the dark saber back to Mandalore. But it kind of wrapped that all up, and then there was whatever happened to Bo-Katan. Now we know who's going to take the mantle of leadership, that dark saber, and move Mandalore forward, and we got the answer with that with Bo-Katan. We also got the question at the very end of last season. They kind of teased us with this photo, and it showed all of these charred Mandalorian suits of armor kind of piled up and stuff like that, and we were always wondering, well, what is that all about? And that's we kind of got the answer to that too. I give the episode maybe an 8.5 out of 10. As much as I loved it, I was disappointed. I have always asked the question, and Fox can kind of back me up with this. I've always wondered, like once you get to episode 4, we start with A New Hope. From that point on, there's no mention of Mandalorians. There's Boba Fett, who is of Mandalore. He's Jango Fett is Mandalorian. He is Jango Fett's direct descendant, so he is also Mandalorian. But you don't see any other Mandalorians. There's no mention of them. There's no discussion. Even after like the history of Boba Fett was kind of fleshed out, you didn't hear anything. All through, we really got to know some of their history during the Clone Wars. I mean, we learned about them, in the prequel series, when they talked about Jango Fett. We really got to know them quite a bit during the Clone Wars, and then through the first season of Rebels, tying everything back to Sabine. We've really gotten to know them, but I want to know what happened to them. I mean, if there's no way an honorable race like the Mandalorians would not help the rebellion more if they were able. So even though this seems to have kind of been wrapped up, I think the Mandalorians are in for a much greater threat as this final season goes on. Maybe I'm wrong, and maybe they won't do that, and that question will still be up there. Maybe that'll be the subject of Dave Filoni's next animated series, centered around Star Wars. Who knows? But I was a little disappointed. Like I said, it's only because I was really expecting that. Oh, this is what happened to Mandalore, and they've kind of teased that this may be what happens to Mandalore. Maybe Thrawn figures it out and mounts it on a Star Destroyer, and there goes Mandalore, with the exception of Mandalorians that are not on it. So And the Mandalorian Empire is several planets, so it's not just Mandalore. That's their home world, but there's several planets around the system. Actually, the Wrens don't live on Mandalore; they live on one of the planets that fall within the Mandalorian Empire. Um, but anyways, so hopefully they kind of give us more. I'm thinking they're gonna, but especially with now that they have shown that this technology exists, maybe its current iteration is destroyed, but there's no way the Empire. We know they keep records, right? So, um, maybe on Scarif, amongst the dark saber and um, other files that that were there existed a file for the Duchess, and if it was created, I think those plans exist, and I think those plans will be turned over to the Empire, and I think they can easily recreate it and kind of give us the devastation I think maybe we were expecting from the photo that was, or the image that was teased. But anyways, um, next episode looks great. They've already teased that. Saw Gerrera comes back, kind of confronts Mon Mothma head on, and they kind of review their differing styles of rebellion. Mon Mothma's planned, diplomatic, strategic attacks versus Saw Gerrera. If we take out 3 civilians but 30 Imperial troops, then it's worth it. Kind of vigilante methodology. So I'm looking forward to it. Season's off to a great start. It's only going to get better from here. I'll be back with you next week if all goes well. Thank you very much for tuning in. Make sure you check us out, our Facebook page, www.facebook.IamYourFatherPod, and our YouTube channel. Just look up I Am Your Father Pod. Our core website page is IamYourFatherPod.wordpress.com. Facebook page is always the best place to get a hold of us and give us your comments. And if you go to YouTube, make sure you like and subscribe. Please rate us if you can as well. It's how we end up moving up in some of our searches and stuff like that. Thank you very much for your time. Have a great night, and may the force be with you.